guys, I'm Liz, and in this video I am just going to be going over something kind of funny that I found on Twitter, and this revolves around an artist who goes by Zeena Hates Fatphobia, and honestly, don't go and harass them. Their work is entirely on their own tuition, or flourishing to do what they want, obviously, but what I'm going to be talking about is how they ended up going after a not safe for work artist and also going after Creepshow Art, and this is just like a funny video, or I would try to make it funny. I'm not really a funny person, but it's just like a quick, lighthearted video, get stuff out here, and then some promotional stuff at the end. So stick around for that if you want to know more about what's going on with my channel, or my art in general, or whatever. Alright. Now, what I'm going to be doing is actually reading off screenshot tweets that were kind of shown in the beginning of the video in the little meme setup that I decided to do. I'm sorry that the light behind me is kind of blinding at the moment. It's what happens whenever it's really sunny out, but for the most part, this is the best part of my room where I can actually do better content in and have an okay backdrop. I'm gonna figure something out soon. But anyway, the not safe for work artist is first in this situation that Zeena Hates Fatphobia went to for this. However, if you go to Azriel Webster's Twitter, they clearly, or she, he, I'm not sure, I can't remember if they had their pronouns or whatever in their bio. Let me check real quick because I also took a picture of that. Okay, it doesn't really say, but it just says on here that the artist on there mostly draws anime, cartoon character, comic style, safe for work and not safe for work, and saying that all characters portrayed are 18 plus. So keep that in mind for this. Anyway, Zeena Hates Fatphobia, or I'm just gonna call them Zeena for the runtime of this video, said at Azriel Webster, "Hope you don't mind that I did some minor edits with your recent art. Please don't sexualize minors next time." Okay, now prefacing this by knowing that Azriel does not safe for work and makes sure to blatantly say that the work that, I'm just gonna say she, y'all can come at me if you want, because I'm pretty sure they'll probably correct me if I get this video out there, but Azriel does say in their content, like, hey, all characters portrayed are 18 plus. The end, no jokes about it. However, Zeena comes out here like, is trying to push it off like, oh my gosh, the character is canonically a minor. However, when she drew the character, and the character is actually from My Hero Academia, so I'm just kind of like, okay. I get what you're trying to do as far as saying like, well, the character is canonically this way, or that age, so therefore it's bad if you make not safe for work stuff of them. And most of the time, like, if you're gonna keep that character in the canonical age, yeah, it is pretty bad. Straightforward, especially if the character's a minor. I agree with that. However, this user, like, it's hard to tell if they're trolling or not, and I don't mean that just to sound very mean or anything, but it's just like, watching or seeing what's going on Twitter, first of all, was just kind of like, this is kind of high-key cringy. But for the most part, it's just kind of like, why are you getting mad over this whenever, even in anime itself, you do have some anime that has underage characters, first of all, that does have larger breasts or even like very exaggerated features. Like, that is something that happens a lot in anime. Sorry, my dad coughed downstairs. Ooh, fun. But anyways, like, yeah, that happens a lot in anime, and in the not safe for work drawing, all you had, it was like, Yuraka was already just like fully covered to begin with. The only thing that kind of like was inflated was her breast and her hips and thighs. Like, that's usually a lot of things that hentai artists or even not safe for work artists tend to do. It was not showing anything very sexual unless someone took it in a form of sexuality or sexual whatever. Anyway, like, even like Zeena acknowledges that the artist did it in 18 plus, or having the character be 18 plus for the artwork. It's just like, it's still canonically that age. But my thing with what Zeena did, if I can find the picture, I already did the whole showing of everything that went on, but for the most part what Zeena did was make the character obese. And for the most part, most people who are having a fetish towards obesity would look at that and probably jerk off to it, and now you made it worse on yourself as an artist for fetishizing obesity in a way, and having someone obviously get turned on by that and then come on to there and you're like, oh, I'm going because it's like canonically 16. You're basically allowing for that to be pedophilia straight away, or even just like wrong in general to go after a minor. So it's just, it's priceless. It's something that's just kind of like, you're being a hypocrite here with doing this, and people are pointing it out, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so much hate. Or they are getting so much hate. They go by they and she based on what their bio said. So I'm sorry for that. But it's just kind of like, yeah, keep that in mind whenever you try to push out a different opinion than what the initial artist did, let alone how fixing art is often very taboo in the art community. And I'll get to that in a minute because we're going over to Creepshow Art's post next, or how she ended up going after Creepshow Art, in which she was like saying, at SM Creepshow, here and while I'm at it, I made a few critiques to your art. The faces are very misshapen, and your shading is hideous. Your internalized misogyny is showing, you roach. LMAO. Don't be so afraid to draw a fat woman next time. Now, Creepshow Art, or Shannon, came up and said, maybe don't use a commissioned work of a subscriber, because they quite literally don't look like this, and what the drawing is, or the artwork is an obese woman who's also darker in complexion. So, it's one thing to actually try to fix art of, like, let's say the whole 4chan type memes of like the E-Trad or the e-girl type look to him, or even just like the general Pepe meme. Like those, some people turn that into their own style, whether that means turning it into like a darker skin tone or a lighter skin tone. Like, people have the choice to do that. Same with how Homestuck characters, like, you have a lot of people in that community that probably race swap the characters, and that's completely fine. That's something that does happen in that community, and I have no problem with whatsoever. That's just case in point with that, because it's just like, it's up to interpretation. You can do what you want, and people can still enjoy the art for as it is. Now, what Zeena went out here and did was that they put out a drawing trying to crap on a different artist, first of all, which is kind of like, what are you doing? And then you're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna make it so much better by doing that. And I'm like, no. As you heard me recite Creepshow, that was actually a subscriber's drawing of themselves that she did for them as a commissioned work. It wasn't like going after someone and just doing it on your own. if that makes any sense. Like, it's not like how I would probably draw. I tend to draw mostly white characters because that's what I'm comfortable doing. However, if I do draw an African American or even a Muslim or whatever, I try to refrain from doing anything stereotypical, blackface, or whatever. But it's just most of the time, it's just kind of like, it's not like you're going after someone for what I'm doing. You're going after someone for their commissioned work and trying to say that they're wrong for doing this and still bashing them, like internalized misogyny or anything like that. And it's just kind of like, you're gonna bash another person's artwork who's also a digital artist. Like, I'm not a digital artist. I'm gonna be straightforward. Like, Zeena, you do better digital art than I can do. I'm still learning it, and it's something that requires a lot of talent. Like, I have respect for you in that regard. However, you're going after people for no apparent reason and trying to get onto them for different things, and then you're gonna insult them. Then you even go off out of your way to be like, oh my gosh, I have so many followers now, who probably most likely the followers that you're getting either have a hate boner or Shannon or even Azriel Webster, or they just like follow you because they agree with you, or they even just follow you because they're stock accounts. And for the most part, I haven't even looked through it, but for the most part, most people, like, I only have like 18 followers on Twitter, and only like 2 to 3 of them actually do have an interaction with my account for the most part. That is a general audience basis. However, with what this is going on, like, you barely have any interaction, and now you're at like nearly 100 followers. That's just kind of like, yeah, okay, something ain't right here, and you're gonna get mad. It's like, oh, look at how many people agree with me just because they follow me. And it's just kind of like, people even called you out, like, hey, if they agree with you so much, why aren't they helping you in the comment section of your post or anything like that? So that is something to keep in mind. And I went off on a tangent there, I'm sorry, but it's just how it is. Anyway, she replies to Shannon's retweet of what was going on by saying, thanks for the retweet. You really need to work on your poses. They're very stiff and ugly. Shading with purple is a no-go too. Now, how people shade with digital art is very different from traditional. In my taste, I know for myself, I like to easily shade with a lot of blues or even purples whenever I do a traditional art piece, because that actually creates more of a illusion of a shadow more than a gray tone or even a darker tone to that. But sometimes I will use darker tones. It just depends on what medium I'm using. Now for digital, I've seen a lot of people complain about, like, hey, don't use a darker tone or gray. If you're gonna be shading, make sure you do like a tone darker or even like complementary colors. And what Shannon did in this was use a purple pink tone on her work. And honestly, that, in my opinion, it looks a bit more visually stylized compared to Zeena's work. Just because Zeena is using very harsh line work, and I'm sorry to say this, like, you do better stuff than I can on digital, I'm gonna say that again, but it's just like, you have it where it's like very harsh line work, and then you're gonna come out here and just say like, oh, your poses are stiff, when yours are just as stiff as the initial poses that people are doing. So that's just something that I took note of. But for the most part, it's up to debate on what people see as stiff sometimes, or whatever, but it's just like, you want people to enjoy your work, then be a better person, first of all, because you're out here, like, complaining that you're getting a lot of hate, and a lot of this, that, and the other, when it's just kind of like, you kind of brought this onto yourself, or one, ignoring the artist's intentions entirely, into just being a jerk in general. I'm gonna refrain from saying any swearing, but just you were being a jerk in general to both of the artists in question. And you're just gonna go after, like, people are like, oh, people are just gonna be Islamophobic if I draw Hatsune Miku in a hijab, and I'm kind of like, no. Even as someone who's right-leaning, like, I'm fine with that. Like, that's your art style and you want to do that, that's totally fine. It's just whenever you go out of your way to actually want to get hate, like, you feast off of that, is the problem I'm seeing here. So yeah, that being said, let me get into my promo stuff. Okay, now for some promotional stuff, I do have a Ko-fi account set up. If y'all want to check that out, I'll have the link in the description. And for the most part, I'm thinking about, since I do have a Twitch I'm setting up for live streams, where I'm doing creature features, I might as well post like the sketches from that up onto my Ko-fi other than like a Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And just put like the finalized pieces up on like my main socials, so that way my Ko-fi has kind of like exclusives as far as work that I do. However, I do want to like point that out. I do have a Ko-fi account. If you want to financially contribute, you can, or just check out the page. That's totally fine. What it is a tip jar service where you don't have to worry about doing something like monthly, like a Patreon. Now, for Twitch, I do have it set up where I'm doing live streams every so often. My previous one wasn't awfully good, I have to say. I'm still trying to work on that one piece that I was doing in it, and I'm probably gonna have to grab one of my canvases over here and just redo it, see what I can do to better myself at it, because I definitely prefer my sketches over that of what I was doing. So maybe you'll see some of that pop up here and there on my socials. And let's see what else. Yeah, I have another video coming out soon that I'm still working on getting it like layered out and putting my audio into it. And that is a video about Micah Stauffer, and really just kind of like her poor excuse of an apology and some theories that people are setting up out there. And there's also another one that I'm trying to do. I can't remember my other one now. Oh yeah, my animatic that I'm trying to do for whatever reason. Like, it's something that I'm trying to do, trying to work on my digital work, because digital for me, as I mentioned way earlier in this video, it is hard, but it's still a learning process. So I'm gonna have that out there first of all. And yeah, I think that's it. Feel free to follow me on my socials, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.